Now convene this June 26th meeting of the Centreville Town Council. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, first up, we have agenda review. Does anyone have any additions or changes to the agenda? I just have one quick one that we'll be reading a closed session statement after the review of the minutes. Yeah. Anything else? All right. So then next up is review of minutes from past meetings. You have in your packets the June 5th, 2025 minutes. Are there any changes or additions to those minutes? Okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 5th Town Council meeting.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Great. Next up, we'll read a closed session statement. So the Town Council met in closed session on Thursday, June 26, 2025 at 6 p.m. to discuss personnel and seek counsel on a legal matter in accordance with the Maryland Open Meetings Act. 5 members of the Town Council voted to close the session. The authority to close the session is found in Section 3.305 of the General Provisions article. The Town Council discussed the following topics: personnel and consulting with counsel on a legal matter. We took no actions. The following members and staff were present: Ashley H. Kaiser, President; Jeffrey D. Keel, Vice President; Daniel B. Worth, Jim A. Beecham, and Sandra Lee Huffer, members; Sharon Van Emberg, Town Attorney; Carolyn Brinkley, Town Manager; Gay Adams, Town Clerk; and Crystal Ebaugh, Human Resource Manager. The meeting adjourned at 6:45 p.m. All right, next up is a citizens forum. Do we have any citizens that wish to address the council? No. Okay, moving right along. And then we have an appearance from Ashley Bagwell from Harris, Jones, and Malone, which is our lobbyist contractor. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I think the last time I was here, it was freezing cold, and now it's the exact opposite. All right. So this past legislative session, I say this every time, was a very busy one. Of course, they're all busy, but each session, I think, is busy for different reasons. I think there were 2 key issues that took up the bulk of what the General Assembly spent their time talking. Not surprising to anybody here, and we talked about this earlier this winter, was the budget. As y'all are aware, they, I think later in session than I've certainly ever seen, passed the budget that included a revenues package. Included in that revenues package, among other things, they expanded the sales tax 3% to include tech services. I think we're going to see a lot of discussions about that between now and the end of the year, and I think it's possible that that get revisited next session. Not, well, I'm not going to say never. I've not heard any efforts to repeal that, but just based on the confusion that I've heard from people who were impacted by that tax, it is possible that we will see some legislation to try and change that, clarify it, alter it in some way. I'm happy to speak about any of the specifics of the revenues package that y'all are interested in. I'll mention 2, just because I know local jurisdictions get a piece of the cannabis tax. They did raise that tax from 9% to 12%. And then the other issue that really took up a lot of time that impacts all Marylanders is energy. I think there's a lot of concern about bills and the increase in people's energy bills, and I think that it's anticipated that we will see another increase this summer. A lot of the legislation that the General Assembly passed dealt with energy generation, understanding that little to no energy is generated in Maryland, and we're bringing it all in from other places. So there was legislation to incentivize that. I anticipate that because people's bills will continue to be an issue, certainly it will take time for generation to get up and running here in Maryland, and so I think that's an issue that will continue to be an issue in future years. Just some additional bills that might be of interest to y'all that I tried to focus on big ones and then ones that passed as well. I think the last time I was here, we talked about the two key Maryland Municipal League priorities, the automated traffic enforcement legislation, which I think when I was here was well on its way to passing, and it did pass. We did have a conversation last time about the possibility of changing the 12 miles per hour what's in statute to changing that to a percentage, understanding that the miles per hour is just low, and so 12 miles per hour over that is really fast. I did speak with some people about that, including some of the representatives from MML who were open to having that conversation during the summer. I think because of the lot of discussions that went into the traffic enforcement or the automated traffic enforcement program passing to begin with, I think that they thought there might be some challenges with legislation like that, but certainly understand the history of that as well, which I think is important when you're talking about passing legislation, and so that is a conversation that they're open to having during the interim if that's something that y'all are interested in. The other bill that did not pass, there was legislation to allow an optional 3% kind of piggyback sales tax increase in the admissions and amusement tax, kind of on food and beverage. That got a public hearing, got a lot of response, but just failed to move forward really in any chamber. I will just say on that issue, I think we are going to continue, whether it's this bill or other bills, I think there is a huge need for local governments to be able to figure out how to generate revenue. And again, whether that's through the admissions or amusement tax, or if there are other ideas that could achieve the same goal, either at the same level or even in part, you know, I encourage you to think about those. And now's the time to have those conversations with legislators in terms of what they might be open to. You know, I think, and we can certainly talk about why the admissions and amusement tax idea didn't move forward, but for the reasons it didn't move forward this year, I think it would have problems moving forward next year as well. And so I think there is an opportunity to think about other opportunities as well that would achieve that goal. The Building Energy Performance Standards bill, which impacts businesses 35,000 square feet and above and requires them to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. I think there is some recognition amongst the General Assembly that that bill is an expensive, or rather statute now, is an expensive proposition for a lot of folks. I don't think there is an appetite to repeal that program now, but there was an effort made to try and go in and to try and, I'll say, scale it back or revise some of the components of that bill. And so that did pass. They included some additional exemptions, and I think there's a cost-benefit analysis that the administration is going to be required to do. But I think the Building Energy Performance Standards part of the Climate Solutions Now Act, which was the larger piece of legislation that passed a number of years ago, I think we will see the General Assembly start to take a look at those different pieces, again, understanding the cost associated with compliance, whether it's for residents, businesses, or even government as well, both local and state.
But, excuse me, but that's relating to commercial buildings,
35,000 square feet and above.
Commercial buildings.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Let's see, legislation, so a number of years ago, the General Assembly passed a family and medical leave insurance program modeled after, I think, what unemployment insurance looks like it would require an employer and an employee contribution. There has been some recognition there that is a more challenging program to stand up than they had initially thought. And so as a part of the legislation that passed, they pushed back when those contributions would need to start until January of 2028. So, you know, they will continue to work on that program, but there has been a delay in that program, and I think that was expected. Let's see, I think we talked about the accessory dwelling unit bill. That bill did end up passing, and it passed with all of the amendments that the Maryland Municipal League was requesting there. So I think they were neutral with that bill by the time it had been amended and passed.
So relating to that bill, again, so it's relating to, again, us,
Yes.
Town of Centreville. So we have to react to that ADU aspect associated with our code, correct?
That's right.
We have to do something. So there's an action that needs to be taken with this. So that was the other thing too that I thought was important. Like, of these things were passed, what's impacting the town and what do we have to take action on? And that's one I thought was just one that we have to,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Okay, in our code.
And I am, to the extent that you want additional information on that, you may already have the bill, I think, but we can certainly
I'm
send
sorry, I'm
some.
kind of looking, I don't
I
know.
look
if
to our
there's been
town
di-
planner to keep
If
us
there's
on
been
track with that stuff,
discussion
you
on
know,
that,
so,
but, you know,
right.
I don't know, as
Right.
far as just future discussion.
We need to get a zoning administrator in place.
Or zoning administrator, yeah, right.
It looks like action has until October 1st, 2026. So we've
Okay.
got a
Yeah,
little
we
bit
got-
of time to
No,
figure it
yeah, I
out.
know
but-
it's not like immediate, but just, it's just to kind of keep it in the, you know, the timeline and know that something has to be done.
There was legislation as well to expand the property tax exemption for blind individuals. Currently, that exists up to $15,000, and they increased that to $40,000. That bill did pass. There was legislation as well. It was interesting in terms of the way it was proposed because it was a part of a bigger piece of legislation and kind of nestled in the middle of it, but legislation that would have raised the minimum wage in Maryland to from $15 to $20 an hour. That legislation did not pass, but I anticipate that we will probably see that again.
Was it a phase like we did to get up to 15?
It
or-
wasn't phased.
Wild, okay.
And it was interesting because it was included in a bill that was specific to an industry, and then in the middle of the bill just had minimum wage increase to $20 an hour. So, you know, I don't know what that looks like moving forward, whether it's standalone legislation or phased in, but I do anticipate that we will see that again. But in this bill, it was not. There was legislation related to cybersecurity. There were a number of bills cybersecurity related. This one was for community water and sewer systems. It requires a cybersecurity point of contact be appointed and to attend annual trainings. And then there is required the adoption of additional standards for local governments that have over 3,000 customers.
Right. I was actually at that MML. I went to that, and Kip was there as well.
Yeah.
So were you in there? I didn't
No,
check
I was
it.
not at that
Yeah, I
one.
think he
Yeah.
was just, but as far as what that was kind of like the key things, you know,
Yeah.
associated with it. They need time, but just appoint a person, and then an audit will be required.
That's right. That's right. And I think that was, especially with the bill as drafted, because it was amended, and I think this bill was similar to a lot of other bills that was introduced, which is just the personnel requirement with some of these reporting requirements, whether it's cybersecurity or something else, just the time and personnel and resources that are required.
Do we have 3,000 customers? Okay.
No, we do not. No, sorry.
I'm like, we
I'm
do?
thinking, population,
Residents,
yes,
yeah.
but no.
Right.
I'm
we
like,
do not.
whoa, we got a lot of people with two water bills. Okay.
That was, that's funny, because I did double check the population and figured the customers were fewer than the population, so.
The household,
um,
or less than 3,000.
Yeah,
We have
so-
commercial, not enough.
right.
But
Hey,
I,
once Providence Farms is built out and
Turpins,
We're getting there.
Carter, yeah.
Carter, we're not that far from there.
No.
but I do think this issue of cybersecurity and how it relates to government is gonna continue
We should probably do it anyway.
to be an issue
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, the threat's definitely there, so, yeah.
I will also, let's see, there was also a bill, speaking of reporting requirements, that would have required local governments to report, and put on a website a lot of information relating to housing development permits and a lot of information related to that. That bill did pass, but they narrowed who that applied to jurisdictions with 150,000 residents.
We got a ways to go.
We're just shy.
It's, the reporting requirements on that were fairly significant. But again, they did narrow that one. And then they also increased, for local governments, the ability, or they allowed, for the increase of the maximum fine amount from $1,000 to $5,000 as well, and that bill did pass. 3 bills that didn't pass, and I flagged these. I know that MML was tracking on a number of these, and it's interesting too, just because they were 3 administration bills that did not move forward, and I think that just in and of itself was a bit of a surprise to folks, and that was the Decade Act, which was the bill related to economic development. There was another housing bill that the administration introduced that did not pass, made it all the way through the House, though it was significantly amended. So it was different than what was introduced and just didn't make it out of the Senate. And the administration also had their own energy bill, and that bill did not pass either. So I think, again, I think the budget will continue to be an issue. Coming out of session, there was a lot of concern, not even concern, I think the assumption was we were going to have a special session in September. Knock on wood, right now, it's looking like there might not be a special session because a lot of the fiscal impacts will hit in the out years and not necessarily in the upcoming budget year. But I do think, it just how the budget was looking and then looking at the federal impacts as well, I do anticipate that we will have another tough budget session, just not one that looks like what they thought it was going to look like earlier this year based on the rumors coming out of the federal government. So I think everybody's still keeping an eye on that, but I do anticipate another tough budget year again, and think that of issues that will be top of mind, that will probably again be at the top.
Okay, any other questions for Ashley? I appreciate that recap. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We good?
Appreciate you
Okay.
coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, and I reiterate, to the extent that folks have bright ideas, either for legislation that's helpful or from a revenue generating,
Yeah, that was again emphasized at MML. It's
Yeah.
like, speak to us. What are the things you want? It's not just for us, but
yeah.
what are the things, it's up to all of us, right?
Well, and I mean, to me, if there's an idea, again, there were issues with the admissions and amusement tax, but I do think state government recognizes the pressures on local government, and it helps them to be able to help you because then you're not coming to them. So, I think it's requires some creative problem solving, but that's one thing that I would urge you to put your thinking caps on, and if you do have ideas, I think it's worth running them up the flagpole for sure.
Maybe I'll probably mention that they do have this cycle, I think it's in the fall, where they solicit legislative requests from all the municipalities. Legislative committee votes, picks 2 or 3 to be the priorities, so we should stay alert for that and decide if there's anything we want to submit and include you in that discussion
Yeah.
as well, obviously.
For sure.
Great. All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have a couple of public hearings. So, hold on, let me get to the right. Okay, first up is a public hearing on ordinance 09/2025, an ordinance of the Town Council of Centreville to amend Chapter 31 dangerous buildings to allow the cost of repair, vacation, and/or demolition by the town to be assessed against the property as a lien collectible in the same manner as real estate taxes. I will now call on Sharon to provide background.
Sure. So when we were looking at the statute, we noticed that it didn't include a provision that allows the costs to be assessed as a lien against the property automatically without going to court. And so we wanted to amend the statute to allow that to occur.
Okay, I will now call Gay Adams, Town Clerk, to present evidence of the published notice of this hearing.
This is to certify that the annexed legal advertisement has been published in the publications and insertions listed below. Ordinance number 09/2025 was published in the Bay Times Record Observer on June 6th, 2025.
Okay, great. We will first hear from all those in favor of proposed ordinance 09/2025 and then those opposed. Please keep all comments to 3 minutes. You are welcome to provide written testimony to the council as well. You could read the public comment guidelines, Gay.
Welcome to this meeting of the Centreville Town Council. This is a public meeting and we welcome your participation. And by attending, you acknowledge that this session is recorded and aired live on QACTV 7. If you have the new BreezeLine streaming box, the channel is 2001. During the meeting, we ask that you turn your cell phones off and hold personal conversations outside the meeting room. The scheduled agenda is available on the information table just outside. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per person. The Town Council respects and appreciates your desire and right to convey your message freely and in keeping with dignity of proceedings. We ask that all views be expressed in a respectful and civil manner. Comments longer than 3 minutes should be submitted in writing. If questions are a part of your comments, we will refer those to the appropriate individual. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will now hear from all those in favor of proposed ordinance 09/2025. Okay, and now all those opposed. So, okay. The Centreville Town Council will consider all comments before making a final decision regarding proposed ordinance 09/2025. Do I have a motion to adjourn this hearing?
Make a motion.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, this hearing's adjourned. Okay, we have another public hearing. This one is on ordinance 11/2025, deed of dedication for Green Street Extended. This is an ordinance of the Town Council of Centreville for the purpose of authorizing the acceptance of Green Street Extended from the Young Men's Christian Association of the Chesapeake Incorporated and all matters related thereto. And I will call on Sharon to give some background here too.
Sure, this has been a long time coming. When this YMCA did their project in their new YMCA, there's this little piece of a road that has always been intended. It's part of their public works agreement. It was part of their conditions of their approval that they deed this to the town. There was a deed restriction from the county, and we finally got their consent to allow this to happen, and so now this is just the formally accepting that and allowing the deed to go forward.
Okay, great. I will now call Gay Adams, Town Clerk, to present evidence of the published notice of the hearing.
This is to certify that the annexed legal advertisement has been published in the publications and/or insertions listed below. Ordinance number 11/2025 was published in the Star Democrat on June 11th, 2025.
Okay, great. We will first hear from all those in favor of the ordinance and then from those opposed. Please keep comments to 3 minutes. You're welcome to provide written testimony. We will not read the public comment guidelines again. We just read those. We will hear from those in favor of the ordinance first, okay? And anyone opposed? Awesome. We will consider all comments before making a final decision. Do we have a motion to adjourn this hearing?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, this hearing is also adjourned. Next up on our agenda is the same two things. So we have consideration of the dangerous buildings ordinance 09/2025. Is there any discussion on this one?
Move approval of ordinance 09/2025.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay. We had the public hearing. Did you want to offer comments during the public hearing and you didn't, and you missed it? Come on up. They're here, we'll allow it.
I was wondering why they were here. Okay.
We're here, I might as well say it, since I'm thinking about it at home all the time, right? How do we enforce this? So you're saying that you can take these buildings that are dangerous, and you can repair them, you can knock them down. But then, what I'm aware of is people don't want to respond in any material way to the concerns of the community that they find these buildings in. Then what happens? So we're left with a bill for what we did. How do we, you have a lien against the property, they don't care, they're not going to sell it. Then what happens?
We force it into tax sale,
That's
right?
what this will allow us to do, is to put it as a lien against the property that we can collect just like we do real estate taxes,
Right.
so it can go to tax sale for non-payment.
So then you go to tax sale, and then somebody in the community, for instance, might buy it at a tax sale.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay.
I didn't understand that last
Yeah.
piece. I appreciate that last piece, thank you.
No, it's a helpful
It's just to
clarification.
push it to that. to
Yeah,
put
and
some
this is,
action.
for anyone that's concerned, this is like step 100 in a long process until we get
bet.
to the point where we would conduct the work on our own, put a lien, and then sell someone's property.
So I'm hearing about the community having to do the work on their own because somebody wouldn't step forward, and
This is to make sure we get paid.
that's good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we had a motion in a second, yes?
We
You want to go back in time? You want to do it again?
I
Okay.
motioned.
Second?
Okay, we're going to take a roll call vote, as we always do on ordinances. Councilmember Beecham?
Yes.
Councilmember Huffer?
Yes.
Yes. Council Vice President Keel?
Yes.
Councilmember Worth?
Yes.
Okay. Next up, ordinance 11-2025. This is one we just talked about, the Green Street extended, deeding it over to the town. You know, we pretty much treat it like a town street already. We plow it, we do.
Move approval of ordinance 11-2025, deed of dedication, Green Street extension.
Second.
Okay. Councilmember
Yes.
Beecham. Councilmember Huffer.
Yes.
Yes. Council Vice
Yes.
President Keel. Councilmember
Yes.
Worth. Okay.
I need to learn short.
All right. Next up, we have the town solar partnerships memo. You have another sheet on your desks too, right? In addition to the memo from our finance director. I said I would do some additional digging on this. I did talk to a former colleague who works at a utility. He was not aware of this as something that gave him any concerns like the private energy companies did. So we also got additional information from the company. And were you able to get in touch with the Land Conservancy? Okay.
Yep.
And I just wanted to let you know that they have offered to come in and speak with the council or answer any questions in a future meeting if, just to answer anything that may be still pondering. I'm not a solar expert by any means, so I don't want to give any incorrect information. But they did give the Word document for you to answer the questions they heard arise last time. And I just wanted to give you an idea. The savings for the town, specifically on its own with the 10%, would be approximately $20,000 to $25,000 a year on utility bills.
Okay.
That's if we sign up as a town.
Correct.
For community solar.
And that would be only for our bills in general. If a resident wanted to sign up on their own with the company, they would also see a 10% reduction in their energy costs as well.
And we're not locked, we're not locked in, but are the residents locked in?
No. So anybody can get in and out with no issue. There's no contract. I had Sharon, she did review the contract that had come down, requested a few changes with the branding and stuff. But all changes were made, from what Sharon had advised. But again, if you want some more information, I can certainly bring them here to just to give us a better understanding.
So I see this as two distinct topics. One is, does the town want to participate as the town? I'm always after trying to save money, and especially if it's related to renewable energy, but I think like we ought to put a solicitation out so that more than one company can know that we're interested in doing this, so that we have competitive bidding on this.
Because we got two, right?
Yep.
And then this was the recommendation of staff, was to go with this one.
They
But
were
we can
both, they were both 10%. I don't know, well,
You picked this one because the other one was a contract we would
Right.
be locked into, and this was
But these
not.
two approached us. We didn't
Yeah.
put a solicitation out to say,
I'm fine
anybody,
with that.
anybody got a deal, right?
I'm fine with that. I remain a little bit concerned about the solar farm piece. I know they keep saying they're not in Centreville, but if more and more people sign up, how much farmland are they gonna need to take for solar farms? Like, I'm all about renewable energy, but I do have concerns about the loss of agricultural land.
The second
Absolutely, yeah.
piece, notwithstanding, I mean, the town business is one. The other is, I'm real sketchy on the relationship when we sign up with them for members of the town to participate. It's kind of sketchy what that relationship looks like.
And we certainly don't want it, and that's why the branding issue, I think Sharon had came down with that, because we don't want that, this is not something we recommend, we're marketing, any of that thing. This is if we wanted to do it on our own, but as well as the residents, if they wanted to do it on their own. I just wouldn't want it to be, them using our logo, and I think Sharon kind
Yeah.
of took that piece out, so.
Yeah, because what if we decide to get out of it, and then
Right.
we don't want to have pitched it to our residents, and then we try to get out of it ourselves?
And
So
it
yeah, I
looks-
agree. Let's put out a solicitation. Do we have
the
consensus
towns.
for that?
Hmm?
Do we have consensus to?
Yes.
I'm concerned that it encourages the consumption of farmland, no matter.
Yeah, no, me too.
Right, and that's why I really don't support it.
And saving $20,000 at the expense of consuming farmland in this way is not.
Right, we're encouraging that, not.
Yeah.
Might not specifically identify a particular farm, but yeah, that's what it's gonna do.
No, I feel the same
Right,
way.
we're just becoming part of
Yeah,
that.
and that's where I wasn't certain, because I'm trying to get my head around this as well, as far as, if we do the bidding and coming and associated with that issue, because they say they're engaged with other municipalities in Delmarva. Who are they? And said they're not currently engaged, with Salisbury. The current solar fields are in Salisbury and Pocomo. So it's just trying to understand the benefit, the relationship of, we do this with the town, what is the benefit to them, relating to it? I think we're all, I am trying to understand what value that is. If there's no branding or anything that the
Right.
city's doing, I don't understand that, where if they come, if we have a competitive bidding, they come
Right,
and
you
they
guys could
talk,
ask the
like,
questions
so
or
explain
chat with-
that to me.
yeah, absolutely.
Why is that, how is that beneficial for you?
Yeah.
Can you guys ask COG if any other Queen Anne's County municipalities are doing it? Let's find out at least who among our immediate neighbors are doing
And
it.
I'll look into, some myself and into the.
And
local
listen, you and I
administration.
probably already have an email from them. They're very
I-
eager.
I don't know, I'm not sure how, and I apologize.
It's on the website, it's fine.
Yeah,
But they're eager
yeah.
to hear from us, that is for sure.
They're probably watching, and then, that's how this,
Yeah.
this memo came about, is after the
Yeah,
meeting. The
'cause,
next
yeah,
day,
they're
me and
observing the
Carolyn had an
meeting.
email, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Anything
certainly.
else on this? No, all right. You're up next as
Yep,
well.
that's why I was like, I'm not gonna
Karen,
move.
so utility rate study.
All right, so originally in the 25 budget, we passed a utility rate study for $25,000. This was based on the change to the new utility system and the way we did our rates as opposed to how their system would allow it to work. Since we've gone back to our original billing system, we then reached out to two companies. I only got a response from one, which happened to be Stantec, Dave Hyder, who did our original utility rate study probably 10 years ago. With the scope of what we were looking at, a possible data analysis to see if the current rate structure or a better rate structure would be wise. Infrastructure changes, with the new wastewater treatment plant and the upgrade and expansion, how's that going to affect rates? It's going to cost more to run the plant, so do we need to adjust? And obviously, they would give us a 10-year revenue model that would kind of help say that this will fund itself, but also look at our allocation rates, especially with the new plant coming on board and the possibility of wanting to increase that based on wanting to save the money for the future. So in 20 years, we have enough money for our plant instead of looking at ways to fund like we are currently. So as a result, the quote received from Stantec, instead of 25,000 of what we had in the budget, was 45,615. So I've sat down with Kip, him and I reviewed the budget. We've looked at the enterprise fund checking account, and the interest earned this fiscal year is in the six figures. So I do believe that the enterprise fund interest could fund the additional 20,000, dependent upon your approval to do so.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think this is important to do. I don't think we have a choice of not doing it. Again, you didn't hear from the other vendor. I don't know if there's, again, back to year 3. I mean, I don't know as far as there anybody else, or do we just stay with the original, firm that did it before because they have history with us? It's like an auditor. I don't know. I'm just asking.
And from, there isn't a lot of folks that, the original company that we went with the other utility billing system was out of South Carolina. So that was trying to find people that actually do this was a little bit tougher. I certainly could, whatever you guys wanted.
I'm just asking. I mean,
Yeah.
you would be closer to it to know.
Yeah, and he has the history here. He's met with the council before. He already has his spreadsheet, and I feel like he's a really good fit.
They
and-
should doing it.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. But,
He does it for the city of Annapolis every year as well.
yeah,
Okay. So you need
I need approval for the
approval
additional.
for the additional expense.
Move approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have ordinance 10-2025, chapter 2, administrative search warrants. This is the permanent of what we had an emergency hearing about previously. When we modified it and made it for 120 days during the emergency hearing, we made it non-residential only. And so kind of the real question is, do we want to keep it non-residential only in the permanent ordinance? I have one question. If something is mixed use and you've got a restaurant in the bottom and apartments in the top and you have a landlord and the tenants are saying, hey, this building is about to fall down, if this says non-residential, we can't go in?
Doesn't mean you couldn't go in downstairs, you wouldn't be able to go in the residential units
But
upstairs.
we have an agreement with the county. They can go.
For livability.
For livability, they could go in.
Yeah, I mean, I got limiting it to non-residential on the emergency basis to get us over the hump for people to understand what we were doing. I worry about residential that is tenant occupied. We've had a lot of conversations about this. It is like still, I think we need our own sort of ability to get into rented units. I think we need a registry of rented units. I think there's all sorts of things that we need to protect tenants in the town. Why we would remove a tool from our toolbox now is a little bizarre to me. I also think the court is the gut check against overreach. And so I do not share the concern that was raised at the emergency hearing that somebody's grass is going to be too tall and we're going to get in their house. That would not pass the test for an imminent threat to public safety. The court would never issue such a warrant. And frankly, if the judge lost their mind, and they did, there's still recourse to appeal. I mean, people have the ability to appeal. I don't think we should limit ourselves because we do have a lot of aging buildings in the town that are tenant occupied. So I'd like to see it be more like other municipalities and cover all buildings. It says, it has to be a public nuisance that affects the health, safety, and welfare of the town citizens. This can't just be like, we don't like that building, we're going in.
So as it's set for first reading here, is it the exact same language that we passed as emergency legislation, or are there differences?
The emergency legislation changed to non-residential only. This allows, it takes that language, that qualifier out.
And that's the
But
only change
otherwise-
we made.
Yeah, there was
Okay.
a couple whereases related to the emergency nature of that I took out of the ordinance, but But yes, it is the same language, minus the non-residential.
When are we set for public hearing on this?
It wouldn't be until August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too. Again, it's about public safety, and if there's a structure in our community, town, that's in desperate need of repair, and we've tried as far as talking to the owner of the property, they're doing nothing. I mean, I think it's an obligation of the town, and Sharon, in your letter, you spoke about, you know, this is not an outlier of an ordinance. This is one that you'd spoken about Ridgely, Federalsburg, Easton, and Queenstown. This is similar to theirs, so we're not doing something that just seems very restrictive in conjunction with other municipalities or towns. So, I mean, I agree.
All this does is lets us go to court. It doesn't give us any right of entry. It lets us go to court to ask for right of entry. And I think that's enough of a check and balance on any sort of potential town overreach. And from the level of enforcement we do now to the very idea that we would enter someone's home for grass height is bananas to me. So, okay, so let's get it public hearing, and I think consensus is to keep it the more broad language that's here. Sharon? Okay, next up, we have ordinance 08-2025. This is the non-self-propelled vehicles, the trailer bill. And so, Councilmember Beecham?
Sure. Several months ago, we had introduced originally ordinance number 01-2025, which our town attorney had put together based on the language in other municipal codes for this sort of thing. We had our public hearing. We heard a lot from our citizens. We responded. We tabled action to work on some redrafting. The clock ran out on us, so we're starting over, but we're starting over with a cleaner version. So this is much less onerous on a property owner or a trailer owner, in that the off-street requirements for landscaping and so forth has been stricken. So there should be no marginal cost to comply with this. We had talked in our meeting, discussing this, about some other changes. I had requested of the town attorney to set two of those more major events up as possible amendments for us to discuss, just to make sure that we're all on board with that. So I think there's a separate page with those suggested amendments that we may want to consider to introduce with this ordinance number 08-2025. One of them, I think the one that some of us had talked about together here on this dais, had allowed for on-street parking in a limited way during maritime season. And the dates that I had suggested were based on the insurance policy for my boat, that I couldn't leave the marina except within this bracket of dates, and those are the dates that we used. The other item we've set up as an amendment, Councilmember Worth had mentioned this language, and so it's set out there, and Dan, I hope we got the right language for that.
Yeah, it looks kind of confusing, but the idea is that if someone doesn't have a driveway or means of accessing their backyard, they could park on the street, as the current code allows.
Do we have this set for public hearing? We're doing this in August also. So what we need to do is determine which, if any, of these amendments we want included in the draft that is set for public hearing.
Yeah.
Right, makes sense.
Where I am personally is supportive of Amendment 1 and not Amendment 2.
Right.
I think Amendment 2, that just is too wide open. What if my driveway is just too short? What if my property, the way my lot is situated is weird? To me, that is, why do the bill that's gonna grant just a million exceptions? The first one with the boats, I think we do have to recognize, you know, how proud we are of our shoreline and the kind of community that we are, and I think that's acceptable. That's just my opinion.
That's where I am as well.
I find both of them to be acceptable. So.
I agree too, as far as just the Second Amendment not being appropriate as it relates to what we're trying to achieve in this ordinance, as far as storage and where it should be, so I agree as well.
Okay, so let's take a vote on each amendment, I guess, for inclusion in the draft. All right, we're gonna just roll call vote it. Amendment 1, we'll start down here. Councilmember Worth.
Yes.
Council Vice President Keel.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper? Yes, okay. Amendment 2, Councilmember Worth.
Yes.
Council Vice President
No.
Keel. I'm a no. Councilmember Hopper?
No.
No, okay. So we will include Amendment 1 in the draft as set for public hearing and not Amendment 2. And of course, we look forward to a lively public discussion on this again and likely more changes to come.
You know, I would like to think we've responded in significant ways to what we heard in that public hearing, and I would hope that the public understands the value of what we're trying to accomplish here now. But we'll see. I'm open to hear suggestions to improve it further.
Yeah, the last 2 ordinances that we just discussed have been super informed by public comment, and I think it's awesome when the public gets involved, whether we always agree with each comment we hear or not. It has been good on those 2 issues to have a high level of public engagement. All right, next up is Resolution 07-2025. This is the franchise agreement for Talkie. Sharon, you wanna?
So we've been working on this for a little while, going back and forth in the terms of the agreement, and I think what you have before you is a franchise agreement, which is consistent with how we've treated other franchisees, and also consistent with the town code, although we should at some point update that. It's a little bit outdated in some of its references. The technology has changed, and we need to bring that up to modern day times.
Lots of that to do. So we can act on this today, if we so choose, yes, because it's a resolution. Any discussion on the franchise agreement for Talkie? I'm out of my depth here, so I'm counting on Sharon's
Yeah, as far
guidance.
as just the issues that we've had in the past, I mean, you've been trying to work through, you got through them as it relates to, specifically, I thought it was just relating to coming through the town to State Road, discussion.
That's a separate permit
Is that a
issue.
separate issue?
That's separate.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Has nothing to
franchise
do with
does
this.
nothing to give them rights
Okay.
to anything other than town right-of-ways. So
Okay.
any state or county right-of-ways are not covered by this, but we don't have control of
So
it.
how have they been able to already dig in Northbrook and Symphony Village without this?
They weren't offering television service.
Oh, okay,
Right. That's what I understand.
This
Yeah.
is, yeah,
Right.
this is for the
Yeah.
television.
got it. I don't know. I'm not gonna be a Talkie customer, so I don't stay as close to it as you do, I guess.
All right.
All right, do we have any action on this?
What, I have a comment about the resolution, section 3, because it says the council president can make non-substantive changes. I mean, wouldn't we typically just let the town manager do that?
Yeah, why is it me?
Right, why is
The
it you?
reason we changed it was because it had you signing. So if you're signing, you'd be the last one to
Oh, so you're
have-
signing it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and that was because
Council
that's how it was
president
done in
signs
the
the-
past.
Okay,
Because I originally
you
had
signed- you
town
signed the
manager,
Always
agreement.
have in
and we
the
switched
past,
it.
so.
all right, that's fine. Oh, because she's
Okay.
got to sign the, okay.
I changed my mind. No, I'm just kidding.
Power, actually, power.
I'm drunk with the power. Okay. Do we have a motion on this?
I make a motion to approve resolution 07-2025, which authorizes the execution of franchise agreement with Talkie Communications.
Second?
Okay, we're gonna do a roll call vote. Councilmember Worth?
Yes.
Council Vice President Keel?
Yes.
Yes. Councilmember Huffer?
Yes.
Councilmember Beecham? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. Guys, don't go anywhere after the meeting. There is certainly stuff to sign.
Yes.
Reports of boards and commissions, Maryland Municipal League.
I am certainly the wrong person to be giving this report. I think I was the only one in the room that did not
I
attend
didn't go either.
NML. So I will defer to anyone else that wants to make comments based on their firsthand experience.
Well, I'll start. So it was the first time I'd gone, so I had no expectations, so it was, but I thought it was done really well. every session I went in was done very professionally and kind of met my expectations, and some better than others. There was some really good material that people could walk away with. There's a lot. And as far as just for you to have contacts, you know, a good one that I saw, you know, just a couple things, economic impact of outdoor recreation, thinking about that. How do you leverage that? What's important as it relates to branding your town? Why is it so important for us to invest in it? You know, another one was about Main Street, the redevelopment of our downtown. I was very interested in that one. So got a lot of information from that. So I think it was just really, these are just a couple. But I was very, you know, I thought it was an excellent conference.
Awesome. Anyone else?
I actually attended a social media, so I learned some things. So I just want the president to know that I learned some things that I should do and shouldn't do. So,
Right.
yep,
I'm glad they have trainings for that.
yep,
So you can join me in doing those things,
Yeah.
not doing those things, yes.
yes. But they also had a lot of good classes. I think I went to 5 of them. So yes, a lot of good classes.
Anyone else?
Well, I always attend the Open Meetings Act and,
Good.
you know, and, yeah, so,
Did you get your little certificate? You have to take the online class.
okay, I'll take.
The online
I'll do
test.
some online. I gotta take a test.
You should do it though, because I think I'm the only, you must have yours.
And the public.
I don't know if I do or not.
Because we're technically not supposed to meet unless
It's
one of the
us.
elected members has it. I have mine, but I'm not always here.
Right, you only need it once, and it's good for the rest of your life, apparently, so, okay. And then, and the Public Information Act, in addition to it, they seem to try to scare everybody about cybersecurity, which is a valid concern, because even though we're a small municipality, the hackers will go after anything that's available, and the smaller places are easier targets, so. And they could shut us down, basically,
Yeah.
so.
All right, well, good. I'm glad it was a valuable conference.
Yep. I think the staff too, I'd like,
Yeah, I thought this year was much better than last year. I was less than impressed last year. But the courses this year, they seem to step things. I actually took a class on AI. I did for a few minutes, kind of, but it actually was really good. I took a lot of notes from that class, and I'm happy to report back to the council on that. I went to the same social media class that Jeff did. That was
Were they
social.
just using Jeff as an example the whole time?
No, I didn't even make it up on the board.
But it was very relative to elected officials, that class was. So it did give a lot of information. I actually have passed that on to Sharon as well. And I took pictures of a few slides, but I have to email the instructor to get the actual slide deck from her. But
it should be on the app.
it's not on for that
Sometime.
class.
Takes them a while.
I asked
Yeah.
them about that too, because they said it takes them a little while to get it from all the
Yeah.
presenters. but
The
it
AI
should be.
class had the slides on already.
Yeah, it was a mixed
yeah.
bag, yeah.
Yeah.
So based on what you learned in the AI class, do we need to have a policy on AI usage?
We do, and actually, there was another staff member there, well, there was actually 4 of us in that class. Actually, Ashley from Finance has already been thinking about it and has already been researching policies on AI. So, because I said to her, I said, yeah, we really need to come up, I talked to Councilmember Beecham about that we need and she said, I've already been thinking about it, I've already got some notes on it, so I said, okay, well, but yeah, we definitely do, and that was one of the things that they.
I would
they talked about.
expect MML to come up with some sort of templates for
I'm thinking
municipalities.
the same thing, but, yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, I was impressed by the new, I'm gonna say new classes they had. It just seemed to be like, oh, it's the same old, but yeah, this year was much better.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good.
All right, Council of Governments.
Nothing to report. Next meeting, September.
Okay. Economic Development, I've had several conversations encouraging people to submit. We need to send, and Carolyn, maybe you or Gay can help with this, letters to we should send one to the Bay Area Association of Realtors because there is a real estate person, I believe, still in the mix. We need to send a letter to the Arts Council because they get a person. just to get some of those ones knocked out, and then we'll go with the rest.
So, as far as that, are you just hoping like to get it off the ground by fall?
Yeah,
I mean, like by September,
I think,
October, or something,
yeah,
after
some
the summer?
early fall, yeah. So I was asked by someone who's interested in serving how many meetings we're gonna have this summer. I think that's gonna be really difficult to get going, but to get in the fall. But I do think some of the easier ones to get are the ones that it's a specific industry or person, and get recommendations for those. And we still want to talk to the Bay Area Association of Realtors too.
Right, I have that on my list to reach out to them to get them in for a
Right,
meeting.
awesome. Park Advisory Board.
There's a meeting next Tuesday, but just, the agenda for it is just, I've had some meetings relating just to some of the town land in town as it relates to, on Water Street, the parking, space there, and then also on Pennsylvania Avenue, just looking at the presence of it. I mean, the conditions of it, they haven't been maintained very well. I'm just gonna be very honest as far as being town property. And so is there something that we can do, that we can improve the way they look, curbside appeal, to some level? I'm not saying like big time, but as far as just relating to doing something.
And I think that's a good council conversation. I'm struggling to follow the thread of what that has to do with the PAB.
Okay.
But they're not parks. They're town land,
Okay.
but they're not parks. And so, I mean, I love the Parks Advisory Board. I hope to be the liaison to it again someday. But I just don't, that's not their lane. That's our lane.
Okay, all right.
So I think if we need to have Kip here at a meeting to talk through what's all the town property and what are specific maintenance concerns that we have, let's do that. But I just don't know that it's the purview of the PAB. It's not a park. Unless the goal is to turn it into a park, and then that's a much larger
They are also
conversation.
the tree board as well. I mean, I think they could make recommendations through, but to make a decision as far as where and what, I think that definitely needs to come
Yeah.
through the,
I just want to make sure that like the PAB isn't directing Kip and team on town property that's not a town park.
right.
Right, and
That
that's,
should-
and that's
yeah.
fair. I mean, as far as just talking, because there's always discussion with Kip and Carolyn relating to it, so it's not like they're an island over there by themselves. So, but no, that's fine. So as far as just relating to that and what can be done and what's appropriate, that's fine.
Cool. When is the fishing derby?
I don't.
It's like the second Saturday in September or something?
Yes, and I'm sorry.
Which is late this year then, because the first is a Monday,
Yeah,
so it's like the 13th or something, that weekend.
it's that weekend. I'll get that for you and send
Okay.
it out.
Yeah.
I think it's on the town calendar, but I just don't remember when it is. And that we have so few meetings between now and then, want to make sure we're reminding the public of those fun things too. Anything else for parks?
No.
Okay. Planning Commission.
Well, they've had a couple of meetings since we last met. They, at their work session, they worked on the T&D some more, and it appears they are on track to finish that up and have a vote on it by July 16th, as we had encouraged them to do. Their next work session is July 2nd at the Wharf Building. Okay, so at their regular meeting, they reviewed a concept plan for a car wash in the business park, and they were concerned about egress from the lot, what happens if the lines are too long, and there seems to be a fairly high requirement on water usage for a car wash.
Yeah, that was
That's right.
something that, yeah, because I was at that meeting, because it was, again, I don't know what the calculation's gonna end up being, but it was like,
It was over 100
number there was-
EDUs or something, yeah, it was like 126 EDUs or something like that, you know.
like that. I'm like,
But that was just, yeah, so,
because they wouldn't, they wouldn't be
Unless they put
recycling.
in a water reuse system,
Is
which
it a
I don't like.
standalone applicant, or is it part of the larger
it's standalone,
standalone?
yes, so, anyway, that,
Car washes smell really bad also. Just throwing that out there for any residents
They
that live
can.
near it.
right,
But just on that point where, again, as it relates, I know EDUs comes to the town council, but just as it relates to TAC and associated with that, kind of
You
design.
know, that's like a whole development,
I
126
mean, that's
CDs, I
like,
can't.
that's just not viable. I mean, it's just, let's
Yeah.
kind of get it out there earlier than later.
Even if we had the capacity,
Yeah, that's not,
even if we had the capacity,
Yeah,
it
it's
seems
like
like
that's-
that'd be
it's
it's not a
inappropriate.
positive use of it, in my
Right.
opinion.
Right.
Yeah, I was
It'll
gonna,
come in front of us at some point.
yeah, I was gonna bring it up later and, you know, but since we're talking about it now, it's like, if, you know, we have an EDU policy under, you know, under review, and, it might be good to try to weight projects based on their water, because, you know, at this point, we don't have a new wastewater treatment plant that has, you know, huge amounts of capacity left. We have limited capacity left. We don't want to give it to a project that's not going to produce a lot of tax revenue per, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so it's trying to figure out how to, I talked to the county economic development, and they seem to base their decisions on employment, okay? And it's like, well, that's not really helping us any, because we only collect income tax for people who actually live in town. If they don't, if they could have unemployees, if they don't, none of them live in town, that doesn't do us any good. What really matters is the real estate tax revenue that a property would produce. And it's like, well, maybe there's a way to come up with a ratio for different types of businesses that would be more appropriate for
Yeah.
the limited water use that we have, you know, that, so,
Man,
anyway.
126?
Yeah, so I guess,
Yeah.
again.
Because, I mean, that,
yeah.
yeah.
And
It's
that's
just about
based on the,
process,
yeah,
so-
That was
for
based on
these-
square
and they-
footage or something. It's not like,
based on our normal,
Right.
MDE guidelines that we use. And I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they've provided, I can't remember if they've provided the usage that, because they are in
They
two.
think they only need 27.
right.
That's still a lot.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot.
That's
given-
still a good
Still, it's
chunk,
a-
right.
Big
That's,
difference.
yeah, that's 27 houses, right? That's,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
right.
just,
So-
again, from that. So the only reason I bring it up and having more discussion tonight is just, again, relating to, you know, they did a great presentation, but as far as I want them not to think, you know, as it relates to this EDU, I think it just needs to be addressed, again, however it should be addressed, but it's just like.
Yeah, they get so far down the road before we
Exactly, and
shut
they
it
spent
down.
money and.
They continue to spend money to fine tune drawings for the planning commission and all of that, and then it gets to us
So
and we're
I
like,
just want to be fair,
yeah,
that's all.
right. So I hope they're watching this little episode to kind of get the idea that, you know, we need to do, you know, we're not going to find that kind of a project acceptable for EDU usage.
I mean, not at
So, right.
126, I can tell you
Right.
that. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm not done yet. Okay, that was the sidebar, that was a sidebar by
Is that a threat?
very much, okay.
No, it really is turning into an episode.
Okay, they looked at the electronic sign ordinance. They were greatly concerned about the enforcement of the electronic signs, especially for that particular sign, which would be like on the entrance of town, basically. And you'll have probably some high school kid running it, okay? So, and probably a different one every year. And they're gonna look at the manual and say, oh, wow, look what this thing can do.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, you know, so every year we'll
That
have
seems
to.
to happen at the fire department.
Right,
too,
same
so.
thing happens to the fire department. So one thing
I
to
mean, they're
talk.
older, but same.
Yeah, but it's just not much older. Well, anyway. So,
I don't run it.
yeah,
Clearly not.
yeah, it would be under control then, I'm sure. So, so one thought is that maybe there needs to be an annual permit process or whatever, and that would be, that way we have opportunity to present them with, here are the rules, and have someone sign them, you know, especially for the high school, it'd have to be a responsible adult who we can contact and say, hey, your sign's not, because who would we contact now? I mean,
The principal. We
the
would
principal, yeah, and it's like, well,
Or the Board of Ed.
right, Board of Ed, something, right, but at least
No, I'm with you.
be better to have some adult
I
we
think
can
that's great.
contact.
I mean, I
Right.
think,
So.
could
maybe-
we implement something like that on current electronic sign holders, an annual?
Yeah, and that's what they're proposing is for all electronic sign.
I just wondered, would people be grandfathered in to not have to do it, or?
Yeah, we'll make them do it too.
We could do it either way.
I mean, I don't want to grandfather them in. I'm asking, can we make sure that, like, all of them have to?
Yeah, but I guess the problem with all this is like, we're talking about nonprofits and schools, is like, what's the ultimate enforcement is either you, pull the plug, or we can't really fine, I mean, we can fine them, I suppose, but,
Up to $5,000 now.
right, up to 5,000, oh, yeah, okay, so. Either
Right, we're not
turn off the
we're not
lights or-
trying to find the school system, we're trying to have the town look good.
Right,
It's not a revenue strategy.
No.
right. So, yeah, they were gonna send a favorable recommendation, but maybe it'll show up at our next meeting, so. Okay, then, they had election of officers, and the same officers were reelected, Kara, Tim, and Nancy, as chair, vice chair, and secretary again. And the planning commission had, see, what is this? Oh, the monument sign for shopping center ordinance 04/2025, they had some revisions to that they handed to Sharon. She's going to revise that ordinance, so.
Awesome.
And of course, you all saw the annual report they completed. They forwarded to us by email and to Maryland Department of Planning.
Okay.
Okay, that's all.
We were gonna put that on next month's, on the July agenda, if the council wants it, or what was sent to you is, I don't think, there's no action by the council.
I think we're
for that.
okay.
Yeah.
We get a lot of planning commission updates. I mean, I'm not saying that as a negative, it's a good thing. I just don't know that we need to relive them all on an annual basis.
So my updates are better than their annual report, is that what you?
Oh, I'm saying they're the same, so we don't need the deja vu element.
Oh, okay. I went overboard there. All right. Oh, there was one more thing. I know we're gonna have our, July 31st meeting at the Liberty Building, I guess the.
No, at the
No, I
Wharf.
mean,
At the
we're
Wharf
not-
Building.
At the Wharf, but the problem with that is it's not televised then, and it's like, it seems like we're having an extensive discussion about the T&D ordinance. It might be better to have it in a place where it could be televised, which would be like here.
I
or-
just worry that we can't do a work session sitting like this.
Well, we can set up tables and go,
Do you want to see if
Just go down
Vincent
there.
is available or here?
Yeah, we can see if one or
yeah, the county does their budget work session, so we're
I
at a
know.
table down there. We could set up a table.
And then also have to see if QACTV is available.
Right. If not, we must just have it at the Wharf Building, so,
Yeah, okay,
okay, thanks.
that's all?
That's all.
All right,
Yes, fine.
reports of department heads, town manager.
I don't have particularly anything, because I have not been in the office very much over the past, since we've met this last time, but, we did have a, request come to the town. They actually called about 3 years ago and didn't have things together, so they have contacted the town again. There is a little company that, they're actually in, well, just over the line in Centreville, who do boat rentals. And they originally had asked if the town would rent a slip, just to, they would pay the normal fee. If we would be willing to rent a slip to them so that they could rent boats out to people. They already do this already, just not through our, our slips. And I said, but I just want to come to the council and see if the council is okay with us doing that.
Do we have slips available? I mean, don't we have a list? Or we've
We have a
exhausted the
list, and we are to the point, which is where we get every single year, where we are contacting the next two people on the list and say, you need to let us know by this date if you want it or not. They say, yes, 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 they don't come pay, so then we start all over again on the next two people. We do have slip 1 available, which is also the slip on the county side, which we don't rent out, but it would just be, the only difference is there is no water or electric over there, but the town owns that slip.
And we can use it for that purpose?
It's a little low for them, I think. They would prefer one of the other slips.
Then I think they have to get on the list like anyone else. And follow the same 3-year rule and all the same.
Are there pros and cons to having a commercial operation out of one of the slips?
No, not necessarily. I think what their purpose is they're getting people at the wharf, hoping that people are coming down, and then, because I think it's only half day, it's not out full day. They're certified by DNR to give the boater safety class to them while they're getting them acquainted with the boat. They go over the safety information, and then hope that this creates, some,
Do we require proof of insurance for existing
yeah,
tenants?
they do have all, they've shown us their, what they require. There's actually a nice big packet that they require them they have to have information on every person who's on the boat, and that's their requirement from DNR, but, so.
And who is it again? I'm sorry, is it
They're called Little Lady Boat Company.
Little Lady Boat Company?
I guess to me, it doesn't bother me as long as it's
Yeah.
the same, they don't get to jump the line, in my opinion, get on the list.
Right.
When it gets to you, it gets to you.
Right. Yeah,
Right, I mean, I
queue up with
agree,
everybody.
and I think it could create, again, from, people taking it and then, again, spending money before they leave town,
Yeah.
So I think from a business development perspective, I don't know anything about the, about Little Lady Boat Company, but, as far as just who they are, and where are they from? Are they
They live on,
Bell Run?
Quail Run.
Okay.
They do it off their own dock currently?
I don't really know, they're not off of their own dock, I don't know where they do it off of right
I guess they could do it out of the transient slip right now, and we probably wouldn't even know. Yeah, it's the same rules as everyone else, in my opinion, because if we were gonna give somebody a longer lease than we normally allow, that would cost more money.
Yeah, and I don't
Be a
think they
different
weren't
arrangement.
necessarily, I don't think they were necessarily looking for the forever lease. And I think we did let them know that that was a 3-year lease, but.
They were
Then
just
they
gonna
can
give
get
it a
back on the list, right?
Yeah.
They were gonna try it. They wanted to see how it would
Okay.
work.
It's fine with me. Is there anybody that objects?
I think entrepreneur.
So they'll have to go on the list. I'll just let them know. We have 42 on our wait list.
It's getting summertime.
Well, and this is Can
Can we give people less time to respond? I mean, at this point,
Yeah, this is,
July
we
almost.
run into this every single year, that
They
we're
say,
just,
keep
we're not
putting me
getting.
back on, but I know I moved down, but I don't have the money this year. I can't do it this year. My boat's not working this year. It's just a constant.
I just signed with somebody else yesterday, and.
Yeah, I have I'm leasing already. I can't break my lease. It's what happens. But, and then I'm like, well, now you're at the
See, my
bottom.
thought is, it's guaranteed boot slip, so they want it, they're gonna rent it for 3 years. I say give it to them, don't put them on the list, because
oh, no
that
way.
way they don't have to keep going, yeah, but they're gonna have to go through 42 people, and 42 people gonna say, no, I can't afford it.
Might be
no, I
some
can't
other
afford it."
businesses wants to do it.
Well, why
It's
should
like-
they get to jump in front of a town resident that's just been waiting their turn on the list for recreational boating for the same money?
Well,
I mean, if we're gonna get into a situation where we're selling these slips to the highest bidder, then that's a different conversation.
oh,
Or the
yeah.
boat that the person we like the most, or
Yeah.
the whatever, then we can have that conversation,
Yeah.
but the same
That's just my thought
$12.50
on it,
that every
yeah.
town resident pays,
Yeah,
Can we accelerate the process
that's what I'm
time
saying,
for?
speed
Yes.
up the list.
Yeah, I mean,
put them
we'll
on the
just-
list, and then go
I
through,
can call and email, and if I don't get a response within 24
By
hours, I
X,
can
give
keep
them a
going.
deadline.
yes.
And could we call, let's say we have one slip, can we call 5 people and say we're calling the next 5 on the list and the first person to confirm and pay? I mean, I
Yes.
think there's,
They call her
How
number
many
4.
slips do you have
Yeah,
available now?
Two.
Two, so you only have 2 available.
right, so there's some urgency we could put behind
Yes,
it. Nothing
yes.
says we have to give people days to
Yes.
consider.
Okay,
But I would
yeah.
not be in favor of letting,
All
they're
right.
not a town resident, I would not be in favor of letting someone skip the line for a commercial operation.
Agreed.
Not at this point, that's
So they
not
go to,
fair.
but just accelerate it, so they can go through the list faster.
And just to be clear, town residents do not get priority over
No, I
anybody
know.
else either.
Right.
So,
But I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
this isn't,
Burn through the list.
yeah,
I will burn through the list.
okay.
I only say that for grant purposes, because that's.
No, and I'm,
Yeah,
I'm with you,
yes,
but I'm just saying, I don't think we can suddenly
okay.
Yeah.
just start selling it to whoever we think deserves it the most either.
Can't change the process.
Anything else, town manager?
Nope, that's all I have.
All right, chief of police is not here, but you have the report in your packet. You can all review that. Town attorney?
Nothing?
Okay, town clerk? Main Street?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Okay. So I actually have some photos from Maryland Crafted. I know I saw most of you there, but what you probably didn't see was the VIP experience, so we have some nice photos of that. As you know, this was our first experience with a little rain. But all in all, I think it was a slight hiccup. It basically had the, so these first photos are from the VIP experience. So you can get a chance to take a look, see what it looked like. The rain actually just pushed the stage stuff back a half hour. So it really didn't,
It was rough for setup for people, but it
oh, I'm
was,
sure, yeah. And I think what was really quite nice is, as soon as it cleared, one of our volunteers came to us and said, "Do you have a cloth? I'd like to wipe down the benches." So there wasn't any, like, this is horrible, it rained during our event. The first thing they thought about was our guests, so it was kind of cool. And I think having the alcohol on both streets filled, Lawyers Row felt much fuller than it has in the past. It presented well, and I was reviewing our evaluations from our sponsors, food folks, and artisans, and they're markedly different than the previous year. So the two things that I always look at is your experience with morning setup and the value that you had with exposure and outreach. So I think we were only really missing 4 evaluations, so I have 20. And of the 20 for morning setup, we have 17 said excellent or good. And with exposure, so did you find value with the experience? We had 17 was excellent and good. So pleased with that. We're now doing debriefs on both the VIP experience as well as the event itself with both the partner as well as volunteers. There's always things that we can improve from year to year. But I think considering our first experience with a bit of rain, it went well. So I don't know if you all have any.
I mean, I think it was very nice. I think it went well, and I think the vendors were great. No, I thought from that perspective, it was successful. You know, even the rain, it wasn't an issue.
I'd love the numbers on ticket sales and all of that.
I was hoping to have that with me today. We were going back and forth a little bit over the comp tickets, but even if we're on the low side, we made budget.
Great.
So, but I'll have the specifics.
And I do think the rain probably affected like same day attendance because it was torrential for the hour of setup. Having been pretty critical of the event previously, I would say this year felt really good. And that regardless of the numbers, I would be in favor of giving it another year because I think we changed the date, we changed the name, we had a torrential downpour. Like, it's gonna be difficult to say we have an apples to apples comparison that can be made here. I think doing it again makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was there from start to finish, so I think it was good.
And I got to be a guest human.
Yes, Harry had a human slot machine at his booth, and
It was so much fun.
Carol was a guest reel I have a video of it. I can show any of you.
Actually, the music was pretty good too. Especially Guthrie Matthews.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was all really good, and I think people were having a
was.
good
It
time,
was.
and
They
I
were.
think, yeah,
Brought their lawn chairs and, it was good.
felt good.
That's awesome. Yep.
So are we giving formal approval for this to happen next year and road closure and the whole bit? So they can advertise in advance? That was an issue this year with advertising in
Yeah.
advance, so.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we say we're committed to doing the event again next year?
We need to have a date certain before we do that?
Come back to us when you have a date,
Okay.
I would say.
All right,
Yeah.
perfect.
Because of the whole liquor law piece and all that, but I would say you can, work on it.
Okay, great, thank you. We will have a couple upcoming ribbon cuttings. Bay Carpet wanted to open and be okay, and I think now they're ready for a ribbon cutting. And also in communications with Cat Island Orthodontics. So they're coming, and we'll be opening applications for Centreville Day fairly soon.
That's October 25th?
Yes. I got an interesting inquiry from Bay Crossing, the organization who's doing all the surveying for that. So, people are looking at our events as a great way to do a lot of really valuable outreach. So it's kind of nice. And we had County Recs and Parks is always interested in coming to Centreville Day. So that's what I have.
So any update relating to the restaurant in town that closed?
Yes, we are working on that.
No, I think
Landlord's
the
taking
alibi.
bids, right? The alibi. I think the
alibi.
landlord is
Oh, the
taking
alibi.
bids. or something. The landlord is working on it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have two, we don't know, there's two folks in line for that, so we're still waiting to hear. But yes, yes.
Actively trying to be.
Yeah, no, he's-
Oh, yeah, there's a gentleman who has been interested in that spot since the alibi went in. And then we have a local restaurant who also wants to open up another restaurant. So we're still waiting to see which way that's gonna go, so, yeah, it's awesome.
And how are things on the corner?
We're still working
Okay.
with them.
Do we have any hope of meeting the timeline? Okay,
We're still working with them.
got it.
They're still working.
Okay,
We're still working through some plan changes.
got it. Okay.
They got a plan at least.
All right. Thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work. All right, we will now have our second, and well, we've had many citizen comment opportunities this evening, but our second citizens forum of the evening. Are there any citizens that wish to address the council? Okay, great. Council roundtable, Council Vice President, did you have something?
I just have
Come
a
on
question,
up.
because unfortunately, I had to step out when you were first
Come to the mic,
talking
please,
about, sorry.
for the viewers at home.
I've been hard of hearing all
I
night
know, I've
long,
been
so-
trying to project for you, Fred, but
About the talkie group, and I didn't hear, did you all approve them to come into town and start providing services?
so they are able to come into town already. This was for them to have TV service. The challenge they have with getting through the downtown is that we don't have the right of way. Those are individual right of way for every property owner along Liberty and Commerce. We have no right of way to give them, neither does the state. They have to get it from every individual property owner to get through the center of town.
But we did approve the franchise
But we
agreement.
approved the franchise. So we've done what we can do, and now it's incumbent on Talkie to do what they need to do.
Okay. Does that mean that they can, as long as it's not right downtown, they can start to provide services?
So they already are in Northbrook. They're digging in Symphony Village. So yes,
I've been desperately trying to get away from Breeze Line for 10 years.
I hear you.
Like everybody else.
They're
Yes.
horrible.
They are working on it. We also have Comcast working on negotiating their franchise agreement. So there will be options soon.
Because I spoke to Talkie about a month ago, and they said it could be years, but.
That's on whatever their timeline is to get with
Okay.
each individual property owner and get permission to
Alright.
come on their property.
Okay.
I know they started at one time too, and then I never heard anything else. Like they were going to house, and then they just stopped.
Yeah,
But they are
but I
doing what
noticed
they
along
currently
Liberty
can
Street.
in town, and we've done everything we can for them.
Right.
Yes.
Right, okay. I know your meeting's going late, so
No, I mean, hey.
I had a couple other things, but I won't.
Oh, go for it.
No,
No,
that's
that's
okay.
why we're here. Seriously. What? Just leave us hanging. Okay. Council Vice President Keel.
Well, I see our 3 speed signs are operational finally. Yes, there was a snag with them about the batteries being dead in them, but they're all operational now. And I talked to Carolyn, and the letter has been sent to State Highway and the owner of Acme Parking Lot, or the property management company of Acme Parking Lot about fixing the
good, good.
potholes.
Great.
So, and she
Wild
said,
out there.
I don't know, have you had any answer from either one of them yet?
I do have, and I got a message from the front office, I think it was, the property management company for Acme reached out and wants to speak with me. So, yeah,
Good.
I need to call them back.
To that,
Sure. Anything goes tonight.
that parking lot's been a problem for months and months, or
Yes.
maybe a year or so.
yes.
I spoke to the manager, who's great at Acme. She's very hands-on.
Yes.
She takes care of stuff. She gave me the phone numbers of 2 people at the,
And they never called you back.
they never called me back. And when I was telling the receptionist why I was calling, she hung up on me. So.
Wow.
and
I've heard a lot of complaints
I tried
about
a
it.
second time and never
So
got.
I've heard a lot of complaints about it, that's why I said,
Well,
let's send a
Carolyn will
letter.
meet with them.
And believe it's actually up for sale. We got a listing from the county today for it,
For the strip center.
Yes.
Okay.
for the Acme
Good,
Shopping
maybe in-
Center.
The whole center. So Acme's only leasing the building?
All of them only lease.
Yeah, they all
There's
only
a-
lease.
Right.
Okay,
And it's changed hands a couple times
Yes,
over the
it
years.
has.
wow, okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for
Sorry.
that tidbit. No, hey.
Well, they've been non-responsive.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a
Well,
parking
we'll
lot
see what
maintenance
Carolyn
code.
said when they talk to Carolyn.
Give me an eye twitch.
5,000 a day.
I sent it, the letter was about the parking lot and the trees, the street trees.
And the other,
Yeah,
last
because
thing
the street
is,
trees there are a problem too.
yeah, the last thing is, I see we started fixing some sidewalks around town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited about that. Maybe
Right.
they'll get to yours.
Yeah, with
There's no hope
Heritage,
for
right.
mine.
Yeah, maybe. Well, they did part of Little Kidwell, so maybe.
It's
they'll
not,
go down.
it's not the mountain that mine is, but yeah.
I know. Well, the one was pretty bad, but I don't think still as bad as yours, but yes. But yep, and that's all. And I just want to thank the Public Works Department because they always do an awesome job. Whenever I call Mr. Phillips, he always gets right back to me and yep, it is taken care of.
Well, you should be calling either the town's emergency number or Carolyn only, and not a member of town staff directly, but that's a great anecdote.
But Mr. Phillips said I could call him anytime.
But that's not up to him.
I know.
Okay. Let's not do that again. Let's stay off the internet. Let's not talk about that. Really.
I haven't been on it for almost a month now.
Council Vice President Keel lost his Facebook privileges recently.
Yep, I got them revoked.
Right.
Revoked.
Anything else?
That's it.
Councilmember Beecham.
I'm not going to ask anybody on this dais to sing, but in 3 days, there's a birthday.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, it's yours, yeah, that's right. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you for not singing.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Not
Hit the
done yet.
highlights here. Councilmember Worth.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Huffer.
So one, I think, because the budget's been approved, I've seen a lot, I get it on my feed as far as towns talking about their budgets, what we approved, and I think it's really good from a communication standpoint to do some type of communication relating to our budget, because there's some, I think there's some positive things in there for the community to know. So, Carolyn, I don't know if we've done something in the past relating to that, other than just, the ordinance on the website, but I think that would be a good communication tool.
Cool. I like it.
So did you want, because I apologize, you did message me today.
You're just getting back, so it's fine.
Do you want a press release article type? Or trying to figure out how we haven't really done that. Oh,
Haven't.
Karen's
This would be
not
a
here.
good use of our new communications contract to say we want to put out a public message about the budget that was approved and see what they come up with for us.
Yeah, I just kind of just to.
We have that support now, let's use it.
Yeah, that's good.
Show them as a sample, the letter that the county sends out.
Yeah, or so we
Yeah,
have some other municipals, yeah.
We get that, and then, again, there's, like Denton sent something out, Galena sent something, again, communication, press, whatever you want to say, but it's communication relating to it. And then if you do a letter, also too, I think I look at Galena's website, there may be a summary, or there could be the letter in there that you're speaking to the community about, just giving them highlights of the, the things associated with it. So I think there's different ways, but that's a great suggestion about asking their opinion about what would be the best way to communicate that.
And they could help us write it.
Right.
Awesome. Anything else?
EDU allocation policy, that's kind of been in the hopper for a while. Any thoughts about timing on that one?
I think Kip and I have completed our review. I don't know if the planning commission has completed their, or even.
I think it's in my court.
Is it in your court? We did send it to, we sent it to Sharon, so.
So,
It's in my court.
so
It'll be after
What are your thoughts?
TND.
what does that mean after T&D, like?
The next few weeks, there's a lot to do on the TND to get it through the planning commission and get it to you all, but maybe, it's sometime in July, early August, end of
Towards the
July.
end of July, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of know where it was in the process and where we are with it, okay.
Okay, that's all. And the only thing for me is just there were several trees down all over town in those last two big storms, and just want to commend our Department of Public Works, who was out at night to get trees out of the street. There was one in our neighborhood, there was one in the Heights. I got some calls from residents about trees down, and I sent them to Carolyn and Kip, and they were handled right away. And so just super grateful for our Public Works for how responsive they are to all things. They're just a great team to have in our corner.
Our great team, yes.
So that's all I have.
Move to close.
Okay, we're adjourned.
I have signature.